Hi, this is Brett Harned. Welcome to PM Matters, a Team Gantt interview series that raises the voice of the community and explores what matters to us. Hey everyone, this is Brett Harned. I'm here with Rachel Gertz and her furry microphone. Hi Rachel.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
We can see it. It looks like the head of a Muppet at the bottom of your screen, and I love it. So, Rachel is a self-professed lover and trainer of digital PMs. She runs Louder Than 10, which is a school for people who run creative projects. And Rachel's a good friend of mine. She is in Vancouver, British Columbia, and doing lots of great work for the digital project management community. How are you, Rachel?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much, Brett.
Thanks
How
for
are you
having.
doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. So good to have you. Get to talk to you a bunch, but never in this more formal setting. But
I know, we're usually sending Giphies back and forth in Slack, so yeah, this
exactly.
is kind of nice.
Exactly. So let's jump in. I know people like podcasts that are super short, so I have a bunch of questions for you. Let's just have a good conversation. Um,
Yeah.
I actually have never asked you this question before, so let's kick it off with this one. What was your path into project management?
I think I started just like a lot of digital project managers by accident. My story is that I ended up in the belly of a Winnebago traveling North America when I first started digital project management. The hubby and I decided we were done with picket fences and done with condos, and we sold everything. We bought a Winnebago, and we ended up just doing digital projects from the road for about 9 months. So
Cool. That's awesome.
yeah.
So what are you doing now?
Well, that's kind of evolved a little bit. So now we're actually running a school for people who manage creative projects. So specifically, we're focusing on the digital side, but the ultimate goal is to actually have an end-to-end school that allows people to come in if they've never heard of digital project management and leave feeling like, I got this.
That's awesome.
I'm
So,
excited.
so I guess you probably get asked this question every once in a while. Like, what makes you a good project manager or a good trainer of project managers?
I think probably 80% of it is the ability to listen and to connect with what they're giving you with their guts, the vulnerability side, that soft skill side, and just being really emotionally intelligent. Like I like to think that I'm really emotionally intelligent, so hopefully you're not going to say no, actually you're not at all. but uh, but yeah, I think that having that level of empathy to understand that we have a common goal, and that every single person is going to be coming in from a different angle with different needs and different interpretations. It's like a tree that has all different sides, and every side you see is the correct side. So
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think at the heart of it, you've got to be empathetic and a good communicator and kind of a people person in some ways,
I think you gotta like people a little.
definitely. And process, but more people, right?
Yes.
So, what do you love about being a digital project manager?
Um, I love the ability to create something that starts out small, that has a big idea behind it, and something where you can actually rally and cheerlead for your entire team and get them all excited and understanding that you're all doing that same thing together. Like all little parts coming together. I love talking to the clients and getting them excited because they can see, okay, maybe I can't afford all of that now, but maybe in the next 2 years, that's the plan down the road. That's cool when you see their eyes light up.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that too. So, what's a bit of advice that you give project managers when they're first getting started, or some of the like helpful tips that you might provide in your courses?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've realized is that there is no one way to do this job, and there's just starting now to be a lot more support and resources available. So I'd say the first thing would be make sure that you have people who do what you do that you can reach out to for support. That's the first thing, and the second thing is a lot about how you interpret your own power dynamic. And I think biggest thing would be to realize, like, when you walk into a room or you're on a call with a client, your tone, the way that you're using your nonverbal cues, your size, everything about you is communicating a message, and you're a lot more powerful than you think you are. So if you come into that, even if you're faking it a little because you got the nervous, like, pukey feeling, most of the time your clients and the people on the other side of that won't know. And if you can back your team up and put down boundaries in terms of like your schedule and making sure that people are going to keep you on hold for a 15-minute wait while you guys are waiting on your call. You hang up and you say, like, respect my time. This we're going to reschedule, and thank you for um, respecting that we're doing our jobs. So yeah, I think just making sure that you've got clarity and boundaries and support.
I think you make a really good point in that a lot of project managers, whether they're in the digital space, handling client interactions or not, don't realize the kind of level of power that they can embrace in their role. And I don't think that should be taken in a kind of like evil, manipulative way, right?
No.
PMs have the power to kind of own a strategy and push a project forward. And I think that's really, really good advice that you're giving people there.
Yeah, I think we probably feel pretty similarly about that.
Yeah,
It's really
absolutely.
important, isn't it?
I think in general in life, you've got the power to make those decisions and kind of push things along. So if you kind of transfer that sort of feeling and emotion to your personal life, from your personal
Yeah.
life to your professional life, you'll probably be a much happier person.
That's actually a really good point, Brett, because that was one of the things I was thinking about with brand new PMs. That confidence that you and I have, it's not because we're 20 years old. Like we earned that, right? We had to go
Sure.
through a lot of hard things in order to even get that level of confidence. So I think it is realizing like you're not going to be able to come in and just be all like, "Woo! Look at all this amazing oozing confidence that I have right now." It's got to develop, and you've got to trust yourself and learn how to trust yourself. So I feel like you just get better and better as you go with this job, and that's why I think it's important to have some other people looking out for you when you're
Yeah,
trying to look out for your team.
I agree. And I think that trust comes in micro interactions as a PM too, especially when you're working with new clients. Just showing them how much care and thought you put into the work that you do gains
Yeah.
trust. But we always hit sort of speed bumps. We always hit issues, no matter how seasoned you are. So I'm wondering, what do you do in a scenario where your client's really nice, they're good people, you get along with them, there's no issues there, it feels like there's trust, but it feels like maybe they're starting to take advantage. Maybe they're starting to miss deadlines and expecting your team to make up for time, and then they start asking for things that are out of scope. How do you handle that kind of situation?
Yeah, that's the classic nice client situation. So you think you go in and it's all going to be rosy. I think what I tend to do is I will immediately assess the situation and think to myself, okay, what could be going on the other side of this wall, right, on this client side. So my guess would be maybe this person isn't actually the one calling the shots. They're the point of contact, but maybe somebody else is saying like, look, we need this, this, and this. You're not getting it. You need to go back to the agency and you need to be asking for those kinds of things. Because if they're nice to you, but all of a sudden they start missing things or missing deadlines or all of a sudden asking for more, there is a bigger picture that is not visible to your eye, and your job as a PM and your team's job is to actually suss that out together, and that's by asking very gentle questions, but getting information like finding out, okay, so are they spread too thin? Are they actually maybe working the job or the role of three people, and so now that's why they're not available, but they're asking for more things because suddenly there's more pressure being put on them. And so, I mean, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Most people aren't a-holes to begin with. They usually earn that throughout the project if the trust level goes down in that project and you suddenly give them a reason to doubt you or the team. Sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes it's just all on that one side. But I like to, yeah, definitely have like a real conversation. Go off the normal sort of setting. If you're in person, if you can get a meeting with them just to like, hey, let's go for a coffee. Let's just like chat about this because things are feeling a little weird and things are shifting and they weren't, they were tighter before. And I just want to find out like, how are you doing? Like ask them as a human being first because they've got families, maybe their dog has a wicked case of diarrhea. You don't know, right? So making sure that you're sensitive to that first and foremost before assuming the worst about that client. Exactly.
So, at what point do you pull out things like your scope or your timeline and make things, I guess, a little less personal, right? Like I'm all
Right.
for like the personal what's happening, asking questions in that approach. I think that's the best first approach.
Yeah.
But at what point do you say, no, this is what we have in writing?
Totally. Yeah. I think that's a really important part, right? So this is that white glove initially, and then you have to gauge their response. So if you're getting a little bit of pushback, I mean, I always, when I am talking about sort of the soft stuff, I'm always going back to the business goals. Like, what are we doing? What was outlined in that initial scope document, the project plan? Like, what did we agree to?
Right.
Because then that doesn't make it like I'm being the boss and I'm saying that you can't have that extra functionality in your e-commerce section. You're saying this is what we outlined to make sure that we can protect that timeline that we talked about and your budget. So it's like a safety net, right? And so I try to refer back as soon as possible, but not in a threatening way.
Yep.
Until you have to bring out the big guns. And I mean, that gets nasty, and sometimes it happens, but if you can sort of sidestep that by just bringing it back to facts, right, and backing up everything with a business case, I mean, it's amazing. That's what they want, right? They want to know that they're in good hands and that you're going to deliver. So
yeah, totally agree.
Does that work for you too?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, kind of switching gears a little bit, you and I are pretty involved in the sort of larger digital project management community and writing and speaking. I'm wondering, like, what topics do you wish people talked about more?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I think we really started to break open a lot of the topics about again the softer side and knowing like, hey, you do have more power than you think and stuff. But the things that we're still, I think we need to maybe work on is understanding like. For me, this is a huge thing because I see it happening over and over and over in different agencies where you get somebody who comes to you for support and they have some advice now and they're like, okay, I feel pretty good about this. They go back into their environment and they're like someone just takes the total crap on their heads. They don't have the support that they need from management or their team, and so they're really running it alone. And like they might be the best PM in the entire world, but if they're not set up for a successful environment, they're not going to be able to succeed, and then you're going to lose someone who's really, really good. So I think the topic is that I want to see ways that we're talking about how to actually reinforce that power that we talked about in the environment and how we get people on board pulling the same direction, because a lot of the time you get ego involved and suddenly you're not even talking about that same topic anymore. You're talking about people's personalities and people wanting to like make sure that they're dictating the process, and it's for the sake of the process, not because it's actually working.
Yeah. I think that's great. I think there's a lot to be talked about within like the role of the PM and the title of the PM and what those two different things mean.
Yeah.
And how you can really support the role or the title in your organization and set somebody up to do a good job. It's funny, I just wrote an article on the Team Gantt blog about the argument for project managers, because I do think that comes up every once in a while. And really what it all comes down to is having the support to be a good project manager and the framework to be a good project manager. Because in some instances, I do think that people need rules, right? Or they need guidelines to do the right job. And if you don't have those, you're setting someone up to fail, particularly in the PM role. And unfortunately, I think that's why there are quote unquote bad project managers out there, because they're set up to fail.
Yeah.
So.
And that's all that their team ever sees, right? I mean, their team or their management is like, oh, I don't like project managers.
Right.
They're all blank. And it's like, you've probably only met two.
Yeah.
And maybe they were blank because they weren't set up for their job to actually go anywhere, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's a good conversation piece, too. And I want us to tackle that big time.
Yeah.
Let's go out there and start changing the way people are actually viewing project managers, and I think we need everyone's help for that.
Yeah. Well, I think we need people to kind of embrace this community and everything that we can do and start writing and talking more about it, which I think is happening, which is really cool. So I think we're just at about time, but do you have any parting advice for people watching this, project managers, people who are interested in managing projects, that kind of thing?
I'd say I think if you're interested in it, the way that you you can kind of decide which pathway to get on is to understand like you are going to get it from both ends. When you have this role, you're kind of that person that keeps everything together, right? So you have to be okay with sort of feeling like you might have a lot on your shoulders, but at the same time, the reward of being able to keep your team buttoned up, like that's hugely important. And I find that most project managers are natural people pleasers, natural communicators. They are fun at parties. Like I don't know if you get well, Brett, right? Karaoke, like PMs are hilarious. So they're good people, you know. And I think like if you're thinking about going into that role, you gotta be first and foremost. You gotta feel really comfortable with tough conversations and or at least get familiar, be okay with the discomfort of all of that awkwardness because you're basically coming in and filtering everything for everybody else. And I'd say that the biggest takeaway for me, the thing that I learned again comes back to we teach people how to treat us. And so we might not even know the things that we're doing that are causing behaviors to sort of unfold in a certain way where people might, give us a grief or maybe come down a little harder on us. And as soon as we, again, realize that power dynamic that we teach people, we taught that client to not respect our time, or we taught that team member to not understand our role. I mean, in a way, if everybody has that same feeling, then I think that we strengthen our roles and we really can come together and be fighting for the same things in the project.
Great. I think completely agree with everything that you just said.
No, you don't, Brad.
Yeah. Hey, if I didn't, I would tell you.
Yeah, you would.
Hey, well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been awesome. You guys can catch up with Rachel on Twitter at TheStrayMuse, louderthan10.com, which it puts out a monthly magazine, correct?
It's actually bi-monthly, which is once every 2, right?
Yes, there we go. Sorry about that. And then we cannot forget about everydaydpm.com, where Rachel and I are co-blogging daily about project management. So check that out as well. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much, Rachel.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.